Let's talk about rebuilding the wrist. The wrist is actually a really complex series of joints. The reason why I say that is because most people think that you have the arm bone and then you have the hand and then that's it and they're connected. But it's really complex. You actually have two bones in the lower arm. You have the radius on the thumb side, the ulna on the other side. Then in between the actual hand and those bones, you actually have 8 small bones that make up your wrist. And then you have this thing called a retinaculum and all this connective tissue around there. And just a little kind of side note here for a second. When you hear of something called carpal tunnel syndrome, they're in between these two bones here. There's a retinaculum, which is a piece of connective tissue. And then in between there's almost like a tunnel where a bunch of nerves and blood vessels go through. And when that area gets compressed, that can create numbness in the hand. That's what they call carpal tunnel syndrome. Here's the thing. Does it exist? Absolutely. Do we find that it's as common as what it gets diagnosed? Absolutely not. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that have come in that have been diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome and they had zero problem in their wrist. Guess where it was coming from? Right up here. If you have compression or irritation to the nerves in the neck, all of those nerves go through what's known as the thoracic outlet, and then they go down the arm, and you have the different nerves that go to the different areas of the hand. So the C6 nerve goes to this one and first and second digit. C7 goes to the middle finger. The C8 nerve goes to the inside of the lower arm, as well as the fourth and fifth digits. And so we find all the time where people get numbness and tingling in their hand, and their problem is actually coming from their neck. So it's so important that we continually evaluate the cervical spine for any issues before we even think about doing anything with the wrist. Then if we can clear out the neck, clear out the shoulder, clear the elbow, and there's still stuff going on in the wrist, then we need to, number one, adjust the wrist, but then number two, work on regaining the normal tissue structure and mobility of the wrist as well. So that's what we're going to work on right now. First thing I want you to work on doing is just work on some of the soft tissue in there. So you can use a foam roller, you can use the edge of your counter, but you can just get on there and roll out those tissues. So these I'm working on the extensors, so the back of the arm, and then you can go here and rotate side to side. Then another thing that you can do is take the edge of a counter, put a little bit of lotion on you. You don't want to do this hard, only maybe a minute or so, and just kind of gently get in there and scrape the tissues. You can do the same thing to the top part, right against the edge of the counter, nothing sharp, and just work on you're going to see it, the skin is going to turn a bit red, but what you're working on doing is just getting blood flow to the area, removing some of the superficial adhesions, restoring some of those sliding surfaces of the tissues. Then once you do that, there's 3 primary movements that we're going to work on to recapture good movement of the wrist. So the first one you're going to do, palms are going to be facing forward, fingers down, and then what you're going to do is put them there, turn it out, and then try to place your hands straight on the ground. And you want to do this with your fingers spread out. You don't want to do this with your fingers together like this. So spread those fingers out and here, and then pull those shoulders down. Just like that. You might be starting like this. You might have to start this because you don't have the mobility there, but you really want to be able to get back over 90 degrees. So you want to really be able to get that all the way back and sit back into it and feel a nice deep stretch there. So that's level 1. Then this one, opposite. Fingers down, point them towards you, and get the tops of your hands flat. For this one, fingers still spread, and then you're going to try to take your elbow creases and rotate them forward. You're going to feel a really deep stretch when you do this. So here, elbow creases forward. Then what you're going to do is if you can sit back a little bit, pull the shoulders down, and you'll feel a real deep stretch in that top part of the arm. third one, you're going to make a fist with your thumbs inside. You're going to go on the ground as if you're doing a push-up. So get in a push-up position, then just drop your knees down. Then from there, you're going to shift forward and you're going to try to touch your thumbs to the ground in front of you. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come back and rock backwards onto the other side of your hand. Now, I'll show you this is how you want to do it. All the way forward, and then keeping the shoulders right above the wrist, you're going to bend the elbow and put that weight down there. The mistake a lot of people do with this one is they rock forward, and then what they do is they come back like this. This is not doing it because you're not putting any weight on there or changing the angle of it. You're just shifting your weight back. So keep your weight forward, rock forward, and then bend the elbow, but I'm keeping my weight going in that forward motion. So those are three. A bonus one is a lot of people have really tight flexors because they're typing a lot. A lot of everything is this way. You're gripping the steering wheel. Everything is focusing on the flexors. And we build an imbalance with the extensors. So taking a dumbbells or a barbell and doing these reverse wrist curls is really, really good for the wrist. Or they have these things where you can put your hand in a rubber band and there's little holes and then it's closed and you're stretching it open like that, which works on all of the extensor muscles. Most people are more dominant in their flexors and very weak in their extensors. And that imbalance from that protagonist and antagonist muscle is absolutely going to create issues that can affect the wrist as well as the elbows. So work on that soft tissue, work on that flexing, extension, and that lateral motion as well as strengthen the extensors. And it's going to really, really be helpful in improving the function of your wrists.